Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our weekly webinar. And of course, this webinar is on affirmations for self-healing based on the book by Swami Kriyananda. And we are speaking to you tonight from our monastery in Kandala. And we're happy to be here with all of you. Tonight's topic is courage. But before we get into that, I would like to start with a prayer. So please pray with me. Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, our beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, and saints of all religions, we humbly bow to you all. Great masters, give us strength, give us courage, give us wisdom to do thy will, and give us the ability to live in your joy always. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So I'll turn this over now to Brahmachari Premdas.
Thank you, Jemal. So now today's topic, courage. So I'm just going to read the reading, then we'll do affirmation together. Swamiji says, there are three kinds of human courage: blind, passive, and dynamic. Blind courage doesn't count the cost until it finds itself faced horror-stricken with the will. Passive courage is the strength of will to adjust to reality, whatever it may be. And dynamic courage is the strength of will not only to accept reality, but to confront it with another reality of one's own making. There is also a fourth kind of courage, not human but divine. Divine courage comes from living in the awareness of God's presence within and in the realization that He is the sole reality. Live more in Him, for nothing and no one can touch what you really are. Okay, let's do the affirmation now. We'll do this for 5 times. And Swamiji explains in this book, Affirmations for Self-Healing, in the introduction part, why do we do this for 5 times? So, he says that in the beginning, we do loudly at first to command the full attention of your conscious mind. Then we repeat them quietly to absorb more deeply the meaning of the words. And then again silently to deepen your absorption of them at the subconscious level. Then at last, with rising aspiration, we'll repeat them at the Christ center. So first, loudly, then second time quietly, third time in a whisper, in subconscious, then fourth time again silently, again subconscious level, and fifth time with rising aspiration at the Christ center. So let's please repeat along with me. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected in God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm. Once again, focusing at the Christ center, let's repeat mentally. I live protected by God's infinite love. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm. I look to thee for strength, Lord. Hold me closely in thy arms of love. Then whatever happens in my life, I shall accept with joy. Now I would like to ask Brahmachari Jemal ji to continue this session.
Thanks, Premdas. So this evening's topic is courage, and this is a very important topic in the world right now, and for us as devotees, and it's actually an important topic for us always, because it takes a lot of courage to seek God. It's not an easy thing to, number one, seek God, and even once we determine that we are going to try our best to find God, it is not an easy thing to find God. It takes a lot of courage to look deep into our own hearts and deep into our own perfections. I'll get more into that at the end, but I want to first begin just touching lightly. Swamiji said there's four kinds of courage: blind, passive, dynamic, and then one that understands and is kind of flowing in God and understanding that God is protecting us, and then we can have a lot of courage. And I'll just tell you a quick personal story of what made me really think about all of these different types of courage. I used to be a stuntman in a show in America, and I would do fighting with swords, and there was lots of fire, and I had to climb up high in the air and then get blown up with fireworks and go spinning off backwards into the dark night, 10 meters, 33 feet, and then land in water. And in this particular job, I was doing it to make money so that I could pay off my student loans so that I could become a monk. I knew that I wanted to be a monk, and that was my sole purpose in life. But I also knew it was irresponsible to not pay off my student loans from college. So I obtained this job and did it for 1 year, paid off my loans, and became a monk. But that's not the purpose of the story. I had this position that was dangerous, and there was three other men that shared it with me, and we would alternate different positions. But this one dangerous one, I was the only one out of all four of us who never got hurt within that year. The other guys, either through carelessness, or once I remember clearly, one man said, "Everybody, watch me tonight. I'm gonna do a double backflip with 2 twists." And it was this daredevil type of courage he had. And he went spinning through the air and he landed flat. And he broke some ribs and he had to go to the hospital. And everyone in that position went to the hospital in one way or another. Other people out of just carelessness. But every night I would just calmly do the same thing that I did before, and in a very safe and focused and determined manner, and I got through the ordeal fine. But it made me think about courage, because I met a lot of young men who had courage, but it didn't seem right to me. Going to the hospital, that doesn't seem quite like the kind of courage that we want to have or brag about. And so in this, it made me think about, and that type of courage might just be the first level of courage that Swamiji talks about there, the blind level of courage. Um, and but as I started kind of working my way through all of this, I realized I wanted courage, but I wanted also wisdom, so that I would know what to do with that courage, to know if it was right to go this way or not go that way. And ultimately that leads us, there's so many different paths, but ultimately that leads us to wanting to know what is God's will and to feel that we are doing God's will. A very interesting thing is that if you study the caste system as it was originally intended, we all know the 4 different castes: Shudra, Kshatriya, missing one, Vaishya there, I missed one, and Brahmin. But we work our way through courage, you could say, or through wanting to have a greater and greater consciousness, ultimately to knowing God's will and what is the right thing to do. And that's the most of what I want to focus on this evening in the rest of my talk here, because it takes courage to want even to know God. That in the beginning on the spiritual path, everyone else is just enjoying the world, but it takes courage to admit that the world is not going to make us happy, that there's absolutely nothing in the world that's going to make us happy. It takes courage to look within our own selves and understand that happiness is there on the inside of ourselves and it's not dependent on other outward things. I also want to repeat this, the beginning part of this affirmation. It is, I live protected by God's infinite light. There's two stories I want to tell in that. You know, that I live protected by God's infinite light, if you really stop and think, what does that mean? I mean, we don't go around the street and there's some people and where they have these huge auras and we can see them, and so they decide not to wear masks in public right now or something. What that means is it's realization. It's the realization that we are not these physical bodies. It's the realization that this actually is just a dream. It's the realization that with dynamic will, we can change the dream with our willpower and make a happier dream and make a happier dream for other people. And it's the realization ultimately that this is all just God's dream and it's his show and it's not ours and we are not important. And that's the realization. When we realize we're not important, when we realize this physical world is not our true home, we realize that we are made of light and that all of this is light. It takes a great amount of willpower and energy to have that as a realization and for us to have that experience. But the two stories I wanted to tell in regards to this are that Master once, he went and bought mangoes in Mexico, and then he was driving up to Los Angeles, and it was illegal to bring fruit across the border. And he had the car packed with mangoes, and it smelled of mangoes. And I think he was with Dr. Lewis, and the custom agents just let them go through. And Dr. Lewis said he saw blue light surrounding the car. The same master went swimming in the ocean somewhere on the east coast of America in the winter, which is just unbelievable. It's freezing cold there. And I believe Dr. Lewis again saw a blue light and just knew that, so master, then he didn't feel that cold, that he was protected by it. Okay, when we achieve a certain level of realization, then this will happen on a physical plane. And who knows, perhaps Dr. Lewis was seeing astral lights that other people couldn't see. We just don't know about these things. But ultimately, we want the realization that we are not who we think we are, that we are something more, so much more. You are so much more than your little body and the little problems that you think that you have right now. That you are made in the image and likeness of God. And that goes even beyond being light. It goes into even the higher realms. So find that courage. Find that courage so you can understand Master's words that living for God is martyrdom. You understand them and you're not even worried about it. Because that martyrdom is getting rid of ego. And I'll close with this. Remember, the whole point of the spiritual path is to get rid of our ego, is to offer our ego up at the point between the eyebrows, up to God, and live in that freedom. And when we can live in that freedom, we will be courage itself, that we will be the older brother of danger, and nothing will be able to touch us. So I'll hand it over to Premdas.
Thank you very much, Jemal, for the inspiring this thing. So now I'm going to just start from again the story of three kinds of courage. So now I'm going to take you through an analogy, which Jamalji again helped me with. So this is a restaurant scene now. So three friends, we all go to a restaurant. We just did not know, we just carry 1,000 rupees in our pocket thinking that should be quite enough for all three of us. But we end up our friend takes us to Ethiopian restaurant. It is one of its kind in the whole of city. So now you see, when it's one of its kind, you really think that it should be, the prices start going up in that direction. So we start eating, and it's more like somehow it ended up that they started serving something similar to South Indian. So now the urge to eat more happened, and we started eating, and we started having desserts. We somehow did not put our thoughts into the bill part of things. Let's say this happened, even though this did not happen really. Yeah. So, and finally, the bill comes in, and now everybody starts looking at each other's faces because he asked, I thought you had more money. I thought you had more money. So this is, what is this now? Blind courage. When the bill comes in front of us and then we are like horror stricken, what should we do now? Okay. Now let's see what is the passive courage in this part. Now it's about adjusting to reality. Okay, so then the passive courage is like, okay, let's accept it. So we don't have the money. And now what's the dynamic courage? Is the strength of will not only to accept reality but to confront it with another reality of one's own making. So here, let's say this friend of mine who is having this dynamic courage, he just takes his phone out. Okay, it says, friends, no worry, chill. So we'll solve this issue. This is in this area. My friend stays like 2 blocks away. I'll ask him to get the money. Or my sister will be at home. I'll ask her to come, or I'm happy to drop my watch and say I'll pay back, or we'll figure out some Paytm or some other method. So this is all dynamic. Now, what's this fourth kind of courage? Divine courage. So when divine courage is there, like even while person is doing all of these actions, trying to be aware of the situation, trying to solve the situation, still he knows in the center that it's the sole reality is God, and there's nothing to worry, and he's a child of God. So he somewhat, it's like he's standing calmly, centered, and being calm at the crash of breaking worlds. Even at the crash of breaking worlds, he remains calm and centered. Now, in the same way, let's use the same situation to refer to COVID situation right now. So how will this four courages apply here? For example, let's say one person suddenly realizes his groceries are over. So he takes his bike out, he starts going in the street, then he starts seeing all the roads blocked for some reason. He's like, what happened? I'm not aware of anything. Then he goes little more forward, then police are waiting with 2 sticks in their hands. Now that's not a place where you should end up being. So now he starts getting beaten. Then he asks them, wait, what's the issue? Why are you beating me? Then they tell, don't you know that we issued some lockdown and you're not supposed to go without wearing mask or we'll fine you? He says, I do not know it. This is something like blind courage, not even being aware. So now let's say passive courage. In this case, this person sees some people wearing masks. He just sees around, okay, let me also start wearing something. Yeah, let me just start doing how the world around me is doing. If they're not doing, I'll not do it. So this is more like passive courage. Now let's say dynamic courage. So in this case, this person, depending on if he is already working in some pharmaceutical industry, let's say, he'll be like, let's see if I can, I'll not only follow all these rules and try to make sure I'm safe and others are safe along with it, I'll also see if I can get some medicine out. I'll start working on a vaccine or some ideas, and me and my colleagues or my people will work. Or some other, let's say he's in some economic background, or he's some what do you say, some broker or who makes bonds and everything, then he'll start thinking in that way. Let me think of my clients or the world. I should warn my friends about the economic depression that will come. So if they have to invest money, not invest money, or think more in that terms. Or let's say it's us, all yogis, and for us, we know that uplifting the consciousness is at most important. Then what we'll do is we'll try to change our own consciousness, try to keep it uplifted, and at the same time try to inspire others to do the same. So this is what we would do. So now but remembering all at the same time that God is the doer and it's his play, and at the end of it, he knows how to take care of all his children. So if we know that, then that sums up the divine courage in a way. Now, for some reason, I don't know why I took the next one I'm going to start is I'm going to take a small sloka of Gita. I don't know why particularly I chose this. This is somehow it's not logically fits there, but I'm going to still discuss with you all this. Felt inspired to do this. So in this is chapter 18. In the first sloka, Arjuna asks to Krishna, what is the difference between renunciation, sannyasa, and self-surrender, tyaga? So for this, Krishna in this sloka 2, same chapter 18, replies, the wise understand renunciation to be the relinquishing of any action performed with personal desire. They also declare that it is not action itself which should be abandoned, but only that action which desires the fruits of action. Essentially, Lord Krishna is saying, act but not consider yourself the doer of the act. Offer it to God. For example, he explained, you cannot abandon action. You have to breathe, you have to eat, you have to sleep, you have to perform all necessary functions of the body. No one can therefore renounce action altogether unless he is so spiritually advanced that he can sit still in meditation for all the 24 hours. So now, also while explaining while also remembering God is doing through me, I was also explaining, for example, the people who have no other obligations can it would be better for them to take renunciation, sannyas, and at the same time, for the tyagis on the other hand, who involve themselves in, they have to be part of some personal activities. They might have a family, job, social responsibility, but for himself, he must not desire anything from the activity. Even though he has to take care of all of this thing, there should nothing be of his own personal desire in any of those. In this way, this is the true meaning of karma yoga. And then, whenever the opportunity comes, he can pursue God alone. So now, again, Krishna telling both these parts require courage. It doesn't mean that one path is easier or not, because whenever you think of God, you have to put out your utmost courage and strength to reach God. Because even the simple ambitions like fame and everything will require some amount of energy. But in case of God, you have to give everything. Giving up of ego is what we can tell. Okay, now coming to next topic, which I'm planning to discuss here, is about this present situation of the world now. For example, Sri Yukteswarji had already explained that also Paramahamsa Yogananda ji had explained and Swami Kriyananda ji again explained that such a situation was coming on its way. And according to the way of Yugas and the way Sri Yukteswarji more puts it in this way, that the present state of world unrest presages not doom but eventual adjustment to more spiritual values. Old attitude and institutions, legacies from dark age of Kali Yuga are too narrow to accommodate the expansive spirit of Dwapara. At present, mankind is like a growing child whose old clothes are bursting into steams. And once we have learned to cast off our old mental clothes, we shall know peace, true prosperity on every level of life. So now the next question coming is it possible to avoid the sufferings that have been foreseen? Yes, of course. It can be avoided if man accepts willingly the vibrations of the new age and ceases from clinging to those of old. Yes, if man will learn to love their fellow human beings selflessly and substitute an attitude of service and cooperation. And unfortunately, there are so many big ifs, but usually what we have seen is mankind as a whole seldom listens to this until it has passed, the trial has passed. So let's just say now we are not able to control the world. So what as individuals can we do to protect ourselves during these times? As individuals, we can embrace the new consciousness. Even if we do so, we'll have to try to, for example, start meditating more. Let's say trying to keep our consciousness up and trying to feel the tuning to the Dwapara consciousness more and more, trying to be more loving and be open so that we are welcoming the new age. And that, as far as this concerns, and also one more suggestion, Paramahansa Yoganandaji used to ask people is the idea of communities. He used to tell, go buy a land in the rural side of this thing. All the like-minded souls, you need not depend on the government or this or external factors. You'll be able to grow your own food. You'll be able to have your own small society, which would take care of itself. A few friends could help here, few friends could help there. Many hands meet a miracle. And also, Paramahansa Yogananda, in the book Road Ahead, there is this last line he mentions there. I prophesy that this, he mentioned something, I'm just quoting it here, that it's going to be a new beginning of the world of better, more love, more joy, and more light. That's what this world is going to come to, and it's not the doomsday that we are going towards, but it's just the cleansing before the world of light we can all move into. So saying this, I'll pass it to Jemal.
Thank you, Premdas. That was beautiful and very captivating. It really gave me a lot to think about. Very beautiful. So we'll do the affirmation together now, and we'll do it many times. And let's take it deep into our entire being. Yeah, let's do this. So please repeat after me, and we'll do this loudly a few times. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. One more time in a loud voice. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. Now let's do in a normal voice. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. And now in a whisper, I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. One more time in a whisper. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. And now mentally, taking it deep into your subconscious mind, I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. And now let's do it a couple of times. Mentally again, taking it deep into your superconscious mind. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. I live protected by God's infinite light. So long as I remain in the heart of it, nothing and no one can harm me. May you live this affirmation, and may you feel protected by God's infinite light always. We look forward to seeing you again next week, and I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. May God bless you all.